Why We See Movies podcast. I'm your host, Ron Houghton. Joining me, as always, we've got Paul.
Hey.
And Darren.
Top of the morning to ya.
And Ivan.
Hey.
All right. Today we're going to be reviewing the film Get Out by Jordan Peele, starring Daniel Kaluuya, Allison Williams, Catherine Keener, and Bradley Whitford. Later on, we'll do our Rant and Rave segment. But first, let's take a look at what's going on inside the entertainment world with...
You, on the mark!
First news. Another minor correction for me last week. Whoops. I got so excited about that Orson Welles film, The Other Side of the Wind. I called it The Other Side of Midnight.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even write it down in my show notes, but sorry about that. I think I got them scrambled in my head because they have such similar titles. And do you know The Other Side of Midnight, what that's kind of claim to fame is?
No, I don't know much about it.
It was a Sidney Sheldon movie released in 1977. And it was the movie that Fox forced the exhibitors that if they wanted to book this movie, this popular movie, they also had to book this other little film, well, this other big budgeted film that they had planned for that summer. Star Wars.
It's probably not going to be
I remember hearing that.
Yeah.
Now that you mentioned it. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Not surprising for the time.
Yeah. So I think that came out in 76. Other Side of Midnight was 77. I don't know. That's my excuse anyway.
Did that movie even do any good, or was Star Wars just
It was a total flop.
Based on a Sidney Sheldon
yeah.
novel, that's about
Right.
all one
Did
needs
it,
to know.
Was it bad, or just because Star Wars?
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I've never
Seen
heard
it.
high praise
No.
for it.
It's but they got lucky, whoever booked that. And yeah.
Yeah.
They probably saw the lineups and been like, oh, everybody's lining up for this Sidney Sheldon movie. Not quite. Okay, for first news, there was a new Justice League trailer this week.
There was.
Yeah.
What do we think? Are we going to be nice to the DC universe this week?
Well, I was glad that they didn't spoil the whole movie, so that was something.
I'll say that much
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
There's not a lot of plot giveaways in the trailer.
That's
It
true.
was action-packed. For me, it didn't really blow a lot of sunshine up my skirt, so to speak. It looked okay.
It was better than the Comic-Con trailer by far,
Yeah.
but still unspectacular, as
really?
I would say. Yeah.
I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, maybe not by far, but
And
it's
for
better
me,
than the Comic-Con trailer.
Okay.
And I'm trying to avoid as much as possible. I pretty much will not be watching anything else past this.
Yeah,
There was something that I saw in the trailer that kind of set up the Flash for me, if you noticed it.
I watched it once, and that was
Did
enough.
you
I didn't want to see.
Did you see who was playing the Flash's dad?
Mm-mm.
Billy Crudup.
Really?
And he was in jail. Like, they show a scene where the Flash is visiting him. So that kind of tells you where the storyline for the Flash movie is going to go.
If you know anything about the character.
Yeah.
So,
Huh.
for those that don't, we'll leave it spoiler-free, but...
I like Billy Crudup. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As Ezra Miller's father? Yeah, okay, I could see that. Yeah.
I was hoping that I was kind of hesitant about watching because of BVS, because of they spoiled the entire plot of the movie in those trailers. But so I was happy that this one, they just showed the action, just show the characters doing crazy shit. Don't need to spoil the storyline. Just
Doesn't look like Zack Snyder has changed his formula for shooting action, that's for sure.
Sure doesn't.
I was almost getting bored with it just with the trailer. It's like, I don't know if I can take a whole movie of that.
That never bothered me.
No.
As long as they can keep a clear, concise, coherent plot instead of trying to throw it too much. And that's the problem, because they're going to introduce 3 characters in this movie.
And I know it's too early to tell just by the trailer, but this still seems to be suffering from the same thing that a lot of people have been railing against Zack Snyder for, which he doesn't really shoot scenes with characters speaking to each other. There doesn't seem to be a moment in that trailer where anybody's sitting down and having a conversation.
No,
you know?
not really.
Like that great moment in Civil War trailer when Tony says, I'd like to punch your perfect teeth.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have one moment character beat like that. I know they're trying. They got a few things, but
Well,
everything just seems so by the numbers.
Superficial.
But
Yeah.
there could be a thing where, especially with Jim Gordon and Batman, there could be... They showed that one little line, but there could be more,
But that's what I mean.
right?
Every line seems like a movie line. And what did you guys think of the look of Cyborg? I thought he looked kind of weird when he was moving. I thought it definitely looks like there's some CG going on.
Well,
For sure. Well, he's...
yeah,
Like a lot of CG. Is his body being manipulated as he moves?
It's
or does
being
he have like an
constructed.
exoskeleton? Or does it kind of reform itself?
It looks like it's something that it is kind of almost
Yeah.
organic, some kind of metal.
supposed to be constructed
From the
mother boxes, which you see in Batman versus Superman.
And have they changed that in the comic books? Because in the original Teen Titans, he's just an ordinary cyborg.
I don't remember that they did change it. I do think that he looks slimmer in the trailer than, because usually in those ones he's pretty bulky,
for sure.
right?
Yeah,
he's
that
more
too.
like a tank.
I'm hoping it's a visual effect and it's not awful CG. I'm not quite sold on either one. Yeah, I hope it's good, but this trailer did not impress me very much, I gotta say.
I'd say the same. And whereas for Batman versus Superman, the trailers that were released for that got me really excited for it. Some of the imagery that they had.
The first trailer was spectacular.
Yeah, and everybody will agree that that's Zack Snyder's strong point is his visualization. And so, because that's kind of one of my things too, I love strong visuals. I latched onto that for that movie, and this, it just kind of seems more of the same, which I guess it's a movie in the same universe, so to some degree it has to be more of the same, but it didn't offer anything new or anything super exciting. I mean, the Batmobile is shooting at parademons.
But there
And
was
again,
that
it
one scene
looks very dark too. Kind of a dark and muddy film.
Well, there was a one scene with like, what was it, Aquaman kind of riding on the Batmobile.
Yeah.
I didn't like that either. It just didn't seem like the Aquaman that I know.
We'll see. Because the thing is with Aquaman, unless he's near a body of water.
Okay.
But maybe, I don't know, maybe just because you were so disappointed with BVS that's kind of carrying over. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. If I love these last few movies, I wouldn't be probably so wary. But then again, the Wonder Woman trailer, last one I saw, looks really good. I'm still excited about that movie. It looks like it has like a real story going on like this.
But I agree. Everything I've seen for Wonder Woman so far looks really strong, and I'm holding out hope that they'll finally get that right, carry that wave of momentum for Justice League, and finally right the ship that we all want them to put out good movies.
And I hope they keep the whole slow motion thing to a minimum.
There's, like I said, there was already too much of it in the trailer alone for me.
Yeah, and if that's the only ones that they do in the whole movie, then great.
I highlighted that.
It gets tiresome.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to next news. Beauty and the Beast is tearing up the box office. So, of course, Disney is going to be proceeding right along with remaking all of their animated films. I think Dumbo is coming up next. They're still looking for an actor for that. I think Colin Farrell is in talks right now. And then I think after that is going to be Niki Caro's Mulan. And the word on this, it's going to be much more martial arts based and probably ditching all of the music from the animated film.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think this is such a classic Chinese legend. The story of, the female heroine who sneaks into the army and the military to fight, and to prove herself.
And this is kind of one of those underrated Disney movies, too. This is one of my favorite Disney movies, and I don't think it's treated with as much endearment and love as some of the, obviously, like A Beauty and the Beast. But I've loved this movie. Granted, I haven't seen it for a while, but I remember loving it as soon as I saw it. One thing I've heard is that they are committed to actually having a strong Chinese presence in the casting of this movie.
Yeah, that I've read as well. Yeah, which could be great. Mm-hmm. Do it like Marvel's doing Black Panther right now. You'd find all the best Asian talent that you can and just stack it.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you know what? A live act, gotta say, Paul, I think the animated Mulan is one of the most unspectacular Disney films I've ever seen. Contrary, a live action, non-musical Mulan might be really good.
I might just be drawn more to the visualization of it. Like I said, I mean, that's
great
one thing.
Animation. But...
Right. And it was something that was different than just the typical Disney animation style at the time. So I probably gravitated to it for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm sure they're going to be pouring tons of dough into it. It's going to be a first-class production. So
you don't need Matt Damon in it.
No. Well, and
they're definitely going to make it so it can open in China. I'll tell you that.
Well, and as I said on my review of the Beauty and the Beast movie, I think they're smarter to steer clear of something such recent memory and so beloved. They're smarter to go with the Dumbo, go with the Mulan, much like they did with Jungle Book.
Although I got to say, now that you bring it up, Paul, I really take exception to you calling Dumbo non-beloved and not in people's memory. I'm sure there's millions of people out there, myself included, who know Dumbo beat for beat, and I know it far more than Beauty and the Beast. That's
Fair
just
enough.
me, but
I just think there's a little bit of recency bias as far as the general population. I would say you're definitely the exception to the rule.
Yeah.
There's going to be people.
I have a friend of mine with 3 kids, and he has no interest in even showing them the early Disney animated films.
that's
Yeah.
incredibly sad.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. He's like, oh, the new stuff. It was mostly just all CGI stuff he's showing his kids. I know you will not be doing that with your
No,
with
well,
your kids.
people are a little too enamored with the 3D CG animated movies, whereas the classic 2Ds are still the best ones.
Yes, all of you out there who have not seen the animated Dumbo, see it. It's
There's something wrong with you. It's kind of a masterpiece.
It's pretty great. Okay, Darren. Sometimes your wishes come true.
Yeah. All right, what you got for me?
I don't know if you've heard of this, but David D'Amato, the subject of Tickled, has died.
Oh, really?
He died.
Wow.
He died at the age of 55. They have not released his the reason. I think it was probably cardiac. But
based on what I've seen of him, that's
there
might be
you
a good
go.
bet.
There you go. You wanted some comeuppance.
He got his comeuppance. He did indeed.
Yes. Even the directors and producers of the film released a statement saying that they're kind of sad about what happened and everything. Even I think they tried to put a spin on it, saying, of course, we spent so much time focused on this guy that, of course, they established some sort of relationship with him. Me as a viewer. Sorry, I just,
you really only see his bad side in the film.
Right, I called him, I think.
He's not a good person.
Right, he was.
Or wasn't.
Absolutely not. Yeah. I wasn't sure if you had heard that news or not.
No, I'm not sad for it. I'll say I'm not celebrating his death, but I'm not sad for it.
You put a smile on his face.
Yeah, have you guys got around to seeing that yet?
No.
Not yet. I'm curious about it.
Yeah, check it out. It's worth seeing. It's supposedly The Tickled King, which I've mentioned before. That's the new 20-minute documentary, which is not airing in Canada for some reason. It's supposed to illuminate this guy a little bit more. And I think for the people who have seen that as well as Tickled, they have a little more understanding of who this person was and maybe why he was doing what he did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it could ever make me like him. But
there's two sides to every story, I guess. Who knows what kind of things he had going on in his life, but there you have it.
Okay.
He's dead anyways.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Not much news this week. Okay. First off, to all our loyal listeners out there who were expecting us to review Iron Fist, that's coming next week. We decided to catch up with Get Out because there's so much buzz on this movie and we want to make sure that we could all see it before it started vacating the theaters. So sorry about that for all you guys out there. It is coming next week. Thank you for your patience. All right. Let's begin our feature review of Get Out.
Mom and Dad, this is my boyfriend.
Call me Dean and you hug me, my man.
So how long has this been going on, this thing?
Something is weird. It's the people.
Something wrong?
I can't move. Why can't I move?
You've been chosen.
You're so scared.
Get out.
Okay, the IMDb listing. A young African-American man visits his Caucasian girlfriend's mysterious family estate. Okay, first thoughts on Get Out. Paul, what did you think of this movie?
I think it starts out really strong. It gets you, it pulls you right in right away with the opening song. I thought it was a very strong thriller. I know some people are calling it a horror movie. I would call it thriller, but strong characters, strong script, great overall feel. It wasn't one that was on my radar until you guys had mentioned you wanted to do it on the podcast, but I'm really glad I got out to see Get Out. I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Darren?
Yeah, it's good. Horror thriller, we can call it, I guess. Strong horror thriller. There's a lot of clever, witty material here. I liked it a fair bit. As I mentioned before, my favorite genre in the movies is thrillers, so I hold them to a higher benchmark. And there's a few things in this movie that are a little too much in the tired Clichéville of thrillers. I think critics are a little easy on it. I mean, it's at 99% on Rotten Tomatoes because it's a first-time director and because the social material is handled so well. It's a good, strong movie, but I'm not in the 99% range by any means.
Okay. Ivan, I know you haven't seen the movie yet.
No, I haven't gotten the chance, so I'll pretty much be kind of sitting back and listening.
Okay, my first thoughts. I like this movie a lot. I thought it was pretty great. One thing, I went in completely clean. I had not seen the trailer, any advertising for this movie, and I think that's really important. Have you guys seen the trailer to this?
I did see the trailer,
I
yeah.
watched, oh my God, do they spoil it? They ruined this movie in the trailer.
I think they...
Really?
I would argue they almost have to, because who would go see the movie otherwise?
Sure, they have to set it up.
Which is unfair, but you're right. There's a lot of the
happy
trailer.
I didn't, right?
Oh, for sure. I envy you.
Because a big chunk of this movie is its mystery element, too.
Yeah.
And seeing the trailer eliminates that. Mm-hmm. So I'm so glad that I avoided that.
Wow, I hadn't seen the trailer either, so I'm really glad that I went in clean. I knew the premise, and that's all I knew.
There's a lot to talk about here before we even get into spoilers, though, so we might as well dive right in.
For me, this is a highly effective genre film. It's with, like you said, Darren, it's got a nice underlying social message to it, too.
Yeah.
Which really works. It's extremely well written. It's beautifully shot. And I think it builds to, let's say, a somewhat predictable but still satisfying conclusion for me.
Yeah, it's all very satisfying here. I really like how they touch on all the different aspects of how white people are thought to be seen African Americans. Let's put it that way. We think they're extra athletic. We want to be like them because they're extra cool, they're extra hip. And there is a lot of cliches like that in white America and the way they regard black people. And this movie does a very clever job of incorporating that in a lot of different characters.
For sure. You almost have to wonder how many of these lines Jordan Peele has heard for real.
Oh my
God.
Sure.
They do a great job playing on all of that, and to the point where you're thinking something and it's actually said in the movie too. Like, they don't pull any punches when it comes to the quote unquote race card either, which is refreshing because you're kind of thinking, oh, I don't know. And then they outright say, oh, well, you probably have noticed that all my servants are black, but let me put your fears away then.
Right. It's all of these white apologists.
I would have voted for Barack Obama for a third term.
And one thing I did enjoy was Daniel Kaluuya's performance. He was really amazing. I don't know if you guys remember him from Black Mirror.
He was on the episode on the bike, correct?
Oh, that's where he was from.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he really carries the movie, and he does a great job. It's a star-making turn for him, and he's got a big career ahead of him.
Yeah, you bet. He's also going to be in Black Panther.
That's good.
Along
That's
with
good news.
every other great African-American actor at the time. That movie has such a stacked cast. It's unbelievable.
It makes you wonder what they're going to do with that cast.
Michael B. Jordan, Chadwick Boseman, Forrest Whitaker, Lupita Nyong'o, Winston Duke, Sterling K. Brown. That's the guy who played Christopher Darden in The People vs. O.J. Simpson. The woman who plays Michonne on Walking Dead. Can't remember her name. Angela Bassett. I mean, this movie is going to be great.
Well, let's hope that it's going to be great.
Right. Oh, he was also in Sicario, too.
Oh, was he? Oh, I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought the use of music was extremely strong. Like I said, the opening
score.
That song, both. I think that song that opens and closes the movie, which I'm completely unfamiliar with.
I think it's a Childish Gambino song.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I saw him listed in the credits. That's Donald Glover from Community.
Oh, okay.
His rap alter ego.
Okay. And the score in general I thought was pretty good. It's not phenomenal, but as you want a good orchestral, striking score in a thriller, and services the movie quite well. As far as the performances go, you haven't mentioned Stephen Root, who doesn't have a big role in this, but he's been one of my favorite character actors.
Always so good in everything.
25 years or more. He is fantastic, and he doesn't disappoint in this either, and the small role he has.
Second time he's played blind guy after Oh Brother.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
True.
Yeah. And also, Catherine Keener.
Catherine Keener is great.
Whenever I see Catherine Keener in the credits for any film, I'm like, well, this film's going to be pretty decent. I can't think of a movie that she's been in that I haven't liked. I mean, she has such a good bullshit detector. And Bradley Whitford is really on a roll, too, lately.
I've liked him since The West Wing, so I was really glad to see him in this. I was unaware of what the cast was, having gone into this completely blind, but seeing Stephen Root and some familiar faces, and they all put in really good performances.
And even Allison Williams. I gave up on Girls after season 1.5, but she was always really good in the show. And
she's a good actress. There's things about her performance I don't like here, and I'll say that when we're talking spoilers, because
or the way that the character was written. Okay. Because I have a few questions too.
Yeah.
We can't really get into this plot too much without getting into spoilers because there's such a mystery element to it.
I guess let's
sorry for everyone out there. We try. Spoiler.
So let me say what I didn't like about it.
Okay, Darren.
She seemed... Now, anyone who's conscious while watching this movie has questions about her character from the start. And her scene with the cop...
From the start?
From early on. From very early on, I'll say.
From when they get to the house.
Maybe not right from the start, but her scene with the cop when after they hit the deer, and I don't know if you guys have seen The Invitation yet, but this is now 2 thrillers within the last few months that I've watched that both start with an animal being struck by a car, which is never a good way to start a weekend or a night out with new people, apparently. She just came across so smug and arrogant and bitchy with that cop that I immediately didn't like her from that scene onward. And of course, you have questions as to how much she knows about what's going on. Anyways, I found her a little unlikable in that way. And I think Jordan Peele wants us to have questions about her, but I don't think he wants us to have that level of distrust or dislike for her.
Maybe. I never thought that during the scene. So I just thought that they're playing her character as just a super liberal, not taking any shit from anybody kind of thing.
And it might just be
being very overprotective of her new boyfriend
exactly.
too.
Defending him, he could defend himself, but yeah, exactly, being extremely overprotective.
Yeah, I didn't have problems with her character till near the end, where I was like, how complicit is she in all this? But as for the mystery element of this movie, how'd it go for you guys? I had it figured out maybe about a half an hour into the movie. There's
What do you mean figured out? Like,
pretty much as soon as the conversation of hypnosis happens, I pretty much had it figured out after that.
but as far as even the surgeries and the
No.
personality transfer-
Not
okay,
up until that point.
Yeah,
Just
okay.
the idea of replacements.
Yeah. I mean, exactly.
Right.
The hypnosis is the giveaway for that, for sure.
There's two movies I was thinking of constantly during this. At the beginning, it was kind of, especially at the garden party, it was Rosemary's Baby. I thought they did a really good, creepy, atmospheric feel. Like that movie really
that's
gets
a good
you in your
point.
gut.
I haven't seen Rosemary's Baby in a long time, but that's a good comparison.
And the other one, of course, is inferior film, but still kind of works, is The Stepford Wives.
That's the one that I was for sure thinking
Right.
about.
I was thinking Stepford Wives. I didn't have the replacement angle of it figured out, but obviously, the minute they mention hypnosis, something's up. I was even wondering if it was to the level of the mother having the entire town hypnotized, because the father has that comment early on about how she's really busy and the people out there are just as messed up as the people in the city. So I figured she may have had the whole town under her spell, so to speak, not realizing the replacement angle at that point.
Yeah, I liked the use of hypnosis because it's not something that's overdone in thrillers, is the hypnosis side. It's been done before, but not to a crazy degree. I think there is a little bit of hypnosis in Rosemary's Baby, isn't it? Or am I remembering that wrong?
Yeah, they drug her a lot.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of.
Right.
But
yeah, I think also there's that early conversation with about Jesse Owens.
Yeah.
There's every single moment for the screenwriter means something.
Yeah.
So, we're getting into Jesse Owens. Now we're getting into genetics. And,
Yeah.
where are we going with this? And then when the brother shows up.
Yeah.
you can't get a creepier actor to play the brother than that guy.
But even to your point about every scene is there for a reason, it took me a while to truly understand why the whole part at the beginning of the movie where they hit the deer, obviously it's to bring the main character back to his mother's death. But I was thinking, okay, well, what about the interaction with the cop? What service does that feel? And I think part of that is to set you up into thinking that maybe she is a bit of a protector for him. But I also think it's maybe upon a further review, maybe how clever she is to get out of these situations, because she's instantly on the offensive and switching up and protective, because she doesn't want the cop to see his ID to prove that he has been out there. So that if, say, missing persons goes out, something of that nature, there's a person in an official capacity that can say, oh yeah, actually we checked this guy's license yesterday.
Right. That's good, Paul. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. You're totally right.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say all the above, really. I mean, she's a smart character, and she is definitely, like you say, thinking on her toes, and she's being clever with the cop for, those reasons. She wants to, Jordan Peele wants us to maybe have questions about her, but think, she did, look how she was with her boyfriend. She's really protective of him, and she, wants to, I guess ultimately keep his body in good condition, maybe. But
just getting beaten up by a cop is gonna not go that well.
No, the auction might not bring as much money. Let's put it that way. But
yes, with the bingo cards.
Yeah,
that's a nice touch.
Yeah.
For a lower budget independent film, this movie looks great. I think some fantastic camera work in it. One camera motion that really kind of creeped me out is when Chris is first getting the tour of the house and they enter the kitchen and there's that kind of slow pan to the I guess she's the maid.
Yeah,
very creepy. I don't know if how he locked that shot down. I'd like to look at it again. But some very somewhat simple camera work that plays effectively creepy in this movie. It's,
for a first-time feature director, he really knows how to use the camera. He's got great sense of composition and really knows how to move the camera and compose the shot. And he makes it very compelling all the way through.
I think he shows his understanding of the thriller mystery element. And you can tell that he is a fan of the genre just in what he's able to accomplish in the film, too. Even something like the visual when Chris is the main character, when he hits the floor, so to speak, and that shot where he's just completely helpless, suspended. I thought that was interesting and extremely effective. effective.
It's a nice way to visualize it for the audience of what his character is sensing at that time, what he's feeling, and how helpless he is.
Seeing this movie, actually, funny enough, just I guess the general tone and kind of the fact that it's realism, but it's got that kind of supernatural element makes me want to watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind again, just to delve into that kind of
mind-bending type of movie.
Exactly.
I love Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's one of my favorite movies of the new millennium. So any chance to revisit that movie, is always a good idea. Yeah. I am so happy that we decided to all go see this movie. I would have been disappointed if we missed it.
Me too.
As a lower independent film, too, this movie is racking it up. This movie only cost $5 million.
It's got legs.
It's huge.
$150 million?
Yeah.
So it's going to be one of Universal's biggest grossers for the year.
So sequel.
And there's a lot of good humor in it, too. I mean, obviously, Jordan Peele's roots are comedy. And,
Right.
and there's a lot of great, the TSA character, Chris's friend, is a wonderful addition to the script. And he's important to the plot as well.
Yeah, the actor is Little Rel Howery, and he plays the character Rod Williams. Yeah, he's terrific in it. There's a few good moments with the TSA.
Yeah.
I like that one when he's trying to explain everything, and she goes to get help.
Yeah,
or you think
you all
to get
know where the
help.
joke is going,
Yeah,
but it's
I know,
still fun to have it played out.
Yeah, it works really well.
And an interesting moment with his character, too, that you kind of wonder how much more is at play is on the car ride out to the cottage, and he phones Chris, and Rose basically says to him, like, oh, it's not too late for us. And at the time, you're kind of thinking, oh, it's playful. But in retrospect, you're thinking, she might be coming for you, bruh.
Exactly. Right. Except he's a little too out of shape.
Well, yeah. He's nobody's ideal.
Right. And also the very opening sequence. That was a really effective way to start the movie off. And of course, it's a little bit of a tease. It helps you figure out the plot a little bit. But
it's the nice sort of classic pre-credits tease sequence.
Right. And all of us have seen a lot of movies, right? So we're maybe a little better at dissecting plots than most. I think a lot of the teenage audience that this is probably catered to. Lots of surprises all the way through.
Yeah, like when might as well at this point discuss some of the things I had problems with, and that is when the main character in a movie like this finds out what's going on. It's a crucial moment in the movie, and the killer or the criminal or whatever you want to call them, so to speak, keeping trophies of their crime and how easy it is to find in the house is such a kind of lazy screenplay way of having the main character find out what's going on. The average teenage moviegoer hasn't seen that cliche too many times, but on a far inferior film to this, it's Crimson Peak, mind block there for a moment, but the same thing. Like, why are you keeping trophies of your crimes in the house? I guess the director and screenwriter will say, well, a serial criminal carries trophies or keeps trophies, but at the same time, just to use it as the crucial turning point in the film.
But even at that point, I think he's pretty much got it figured out. He's almost just looking for confirmation.
Well, I mean, that's sure. You're right, but that's what gives away that Rose is in on it.
Right. Okay.
And that's kind of the big turning point, I would say.
Right. That is the big question throughout the movie. Yeah. I assume that maybe if she's not complicit with what's going on, then she's been hypnotized.
Which is what I thought.
One of the two, right?
Yeah.
I was thinking, could she really be this good of a performer for him, right? If she's doing all this on her own. But then when you see exactly what you're talking about, you realize what an actress she is, right? And maybe she's done this dozens
and yet
of times.
Dumb enough to leave that closet door open. Like, what? She has to go in there in the middle of the night. She just can't wait to look at these trophies. I mean, I guess she's been living in the city for a couple months and wants to go back in and flip through these photographs, but to leave it open so easy for him to find, that's just, to me, that's lazy screenwriting.
I wanted
maybe it's the hubris of the family thinking that after the first night, we've got him. She's already got her hooks into him, and he's ours anyways, so maybe they're kind of toying with him.
Yeah, that's I'm sure one of the things Jordan Peele would say, but I think if Brian De Palma used that in one of his films, critics would be a lot harsher on him for using such a tired trope.
I'd say I'd want that moment to be a little more earned. I agree with you. I was uncertain if somebody had left that cupboard door open for him to find it, like willfully exposing it, which obviously they never expound on that. But yeah, I think, you want that moment to be earned, not just happenstance like, oh, here's an open cupboard door. What's in here?
It's one or two moments like that in the movie.
Yeah.
I would say that, and then the other even bigger tired trope of horror movies is the killer coming back to life, which has been for 40 or 50 years a tired trope.
The railing?
You mean in every single movie?
Exactly. Like for a movie that is as strong and original and witty and clever as this was in every other respect, it's disappointing to see a couple lame moments like that in it. And that's what's keeping me from giving it a great review and just a really good review.
Yeah, I kind of sighed at that moment too. It's like, but then I kind of understood, the limitations of the plot and the economy of the characters. Right?
Yeah,
but,
you're right. And they could have even written in another character to handle that, but and plus all the shock surprises. Like, sure, a movie like this, I like a couple good shock surprises, but there's about 6 or 7 in here that just with an extremely loud bang on the soundtrack. Okay, you've given us heart attacks 5 times already in this movie. We don't need more of them. A few minor criticisms, please don't.
I just find a lot of movies like that this day and age, they kind of go for that shock more often than they did in the past.
Sometimes, yeah. You're right.
It depends on the level and quality of movie. True. Like I've said in the past, I saw the last Resident Evil and it relied 95% of it was loud noises and crashes. And it got me the first time. And after that, knew it was coming. And it loses its effectiveness. The more that's your go-to mood, the less effective it is. And
that's the target audience for Resident Evil. And they kind of know what they're getting into with that too. And they don't care. But I think for a movie like this, a younger crowd is really going to eat it up because they're not as familiar with these same cliches as we are.
For sure. Okay, one kind of character moment that I was like, really? He had the great idea about, when he's picking the chair, right? And you see the cotton. I'm like, okay, great idea. Okay, he's got to cover up his ears. So what's the first thing he does after he takes the guy out? Takes the cotton out. I'm like, what are you doing? You haven't even met the hypnotist yet.
Yeah, exactly.
I had that exact same thought. I'm like, what are you doing? I guess he wants to be aware of any other noises coming up so people can't sneak up on him.
And that's the thing you could say, too. Exactly. I'm sure Jordan Peele would argue that he's sneaking around a house now. He wants to be able to hear what he's doing. But like when he comes up with such a clever thing as having him escape after picking cotton, which is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Awesome. And then, but I mean, like Ron says, the hypnotist mother is still out there and she's still able to seduce him with the first sound is she can get him. But
I was hoping he was going to find one of those old pair of 70s headphones. Put that on and go to town on them. But oh well. That was really, I think, the only time I was watching the movie where I was kind of like, come on. But other than that, I think it was pretty solid. All the other stuff, the jumps and surprises, they all worked enough for me for a movie like this. And I just thought it was a little gem of a movie.
It is. It's a gem. There's some wonderful deaths in the movie, too. Some great deaths. The antlers. I mean, I've not seen that. I guess there's been similar things in movies before, but that used in that manner was pretty spectacular.
Because he hates deer so much, too, right? He has that rant about him at the beginning. So it's great.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, for final thoughts, Paul, obviously you liked the film.
I thought it was great. I'd love to watch it again. Like I said, it was a movie that wasn't even really on my radar, so to speak, and I'm really glad that I had the chance to see it and see it in the theater because, like we said before, just the strong music and strong environmental impact of being absorbed into it. I think this kind of movie, watching it in the theater, served at least me better in that I could focus straight on the movie rather than having the distractions of watching this on, say, a Netflix where, check your phone or there's all kinds of distractions. I am very glad that I watched this and I loved it. I thought it was great. And I had 1 or 2 minor quibbles, but I'd get out and see Get Out.
Darren.
Yeah, strong recommendation for me too. It occurred to me now as you were talking there, Paul, that The Haunting is another movie it really reminded me of, especially I'd say towards the end when he's making his escape from the house. It's a deliberate homage to
the original Robert Wise?
Robert Wise is The Haunting from the 60s. Yeah,
not Jan de Bont.
Don't bother with the Jan de Bont one, folks.
It's not that bad, actually.
I've never seen it. I honestly never seen it.
It is awesome set design. I'll say that for the movie. Great production and set design. It's almost worth it just for that. But the original Haunting is fantastic.
Robert Wise's original Haunting is great, and that definitely had an influence here on Jordan Peele. And he knows his stuff, and he's a director I'm very much looking forward to seeing more from.
Was this his first movie, or did he also direct that Keanu one?
No, this is his directorial debut.
I think he wrote and produced Keanu.
He wrote, exactly. I'm not that familiar with Key and Peele. I've checked it out. It's pretty funny, but just not for me. I have seen Keanu, and
Keanu is very good. I was really surprised by how much I enjoyed
It's pretty good, but that movie kind of runs out of gas, too, for me. It's kind of like, reminded me of Pineapple Express. I kind of enjoyed the first 40 minutes a lot, and then the rest was kind of a slog to get through. But no, this is his first debut film, and judging from the success of this, he can write whatever ticket he wants for his next movie.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
If it's still playing in a theater near you, I totally recommend checking out Get Out.
It sounds like it's selling a lot of tickets, folks, so get out and see that in the next few weeks. Might be the best thing in the theaters right now.
Logan's still playing.
Logan is still playing, you're right.
All right. Shall we get to the rant and rave section?
Let's do it.
All right. Dexter, why don't you go first today?
Oh, my goodness. I would like to take the unprecedented step of dedicating my first review. I would like to dedicate, and it is a rave.
And here's a big rave for all our dedicated listeners out there.
This goes out to my wonderful boss, Jennifer, who has been a loyal listener of our podcast right from the start. I'm sure she skips a lot of the parts that bore her.
All the comic book stuff.
Yeah.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hello, Jen.
And Jen, I know you do not shy away from speaking your mind, and one of your biggest criticisms of our podcast is too much Star Trek. Quit talking about Star Trek. I'm sick of hearing about Star Trek. So I dedicate my review of the 4-CD Star Trek 50th Anniversary Collection to you, Jen. Let's get to the music. This is from La La Land Records, which is the same record label that put out the John Williams Jurassic Park collection that I reviewed a few episodes ago. They wanted to do something a little special and a little different for celebrating the 50th anniversary of this massive, very influential science fiction franchise. They actually solicited fan suggestions on the Film Score Monthly message board. Tell us what you'd like to see. What they said, we're probably going to do a 3-CD collection. It ended up becoming 4. And it's kind of a rarities collection. And it's also something that spans almost the entire Star Trek universe. Let me start by saying I'm not much of a Trekkie. I like the original cast, the original series, and many of the motion pictures. But aside from that, all of the modern series from The Next Generation onward, this hasn't really done anything for me. Any episode I've watched, it seems good. It seems okay, but just nothing that's compelled me. And I'd say that's about the same for the music and the show itself. So there's quite a bit here from the modern series. There's a disc and then some just dedicated to The Next Generation. It's good stuff. It's not great stuff. There's a little bit here and there too from Enterprise and Voyager, Deep Space Nine. But they do a lot of cool stuff here as far as being a rarities collection. There's the first ever release of the music from the animated series, which, me being a fan of kind of 70s and 80s animation soundtracks, it really sounds like what you'd expect from that type of show. It's the same composer who worked on the Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man series from the late 60s. So if you remember the kind of action-y suspense cues from that show, it's kind of got a feel of that. They didn't have the rights to the original theme because it wasn't Paramount, but he does a good job of kind of emulating the original Star Trek theme. I think you mentioned that when you talked about the animated series, Paul. There's some really cool, weird things on here. I don't know what show it's from. I'm going to say The Next Generation, but I might be wrong. But there's some alien opera music that is really some of my favorite stuff on there. It's some weird, cool, crazy tracks. The composer said he was given free rein by the producers to do whatever he wants with it, and so he did, and it's a wild thing. There's things on here that I'm sure Star Trek fans have been itching for years, like Picard playing the flute from his dates with some woman. To me, it just sounded like, yeah, this is some okay flute music, but I'm sure Trekkies will be like, finally, we have Picard playing his flute. I've been wanting this music for 20 years, but yeah, it's okay. There's music from the Star Trek Experience, the theme park rides at the Las Vegas Hilton, which also I really enjoyed listening to on this. There's trailer music and demo music. There's music from the Star Trek Borg video game. If any of you are fans of that out there and have been clamoring for that music, it's on here too. I think what hurts the music from the modern series is that the producers weren't keen on thematic material. They didn't want a theme for the characters or any of the new alien species or anything like that. So there's references to Alexander Courage's classic theme, but aside from that, there's not a lot of thematic material driving the music, and maybe that's what hurts it for me. One piece of music that's on here that I've been wanting for a long time is the end credits from The Wrath of Khan without Spock's narration. Every previous soundtrack release of The Wrath of Khan has had Leonard Nimoy doing the space, a Final Frontier narration. And as a soundtrack nerd, I have to say, like almost every other soundtrack nerd out there, soundtracks are for the music. If I want the dialogue or the sound effects, I'll watch the movie. So please stop doing that. And these guys listened for this release, and they finally released the end credits without that narration. There's a good deal of music from the original series here too, which I actually rather enjoyed that quite a bit. It's a mixed grab bag of material. I'm sure Trekkies will love it for its eclecticness and for the little weird rarities that they've been waiting years to get. If you're the average soundtrack listener like me when it comes to Star Trek, maybe you're not going to love this. And I got it on eBay for cheaper than retail, so I have no regrets, but still it's a strong collection, 4 CDs of more than 5 hours of music. So if you want to explore some of the Star Trek universe, it's a good place to start. Jen, don't assign me some menial, terrible tasks for dedicating that to you. Thank you very much.
All right.
For my second rave, I want to talk about I think it's 2015 German film Look Who's Back. I don't know if you guys have heard about this. It was based on a book. So Hitler wakes up in 2014 Berlin, and that's the starting point for the movie. It's not explicitly stated, but you get the feel because it's kind of where the bunker was. So at the moment he died at the bunker, there was some anomaly in the space-time continuum, and it brought Hitler to 2014 Berlin. And I saw the trailer for this movie and I thought, my God, like how could they even get this made in modern Germany? If there's ever a country that wants to distance itself from that past as much as possible.
They actually do have laws, like anti-Nazi laws.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Like some guy named his dog Adolf and taught him to like raise his paw, and that was a...
Yo, undoubtedly. I heard about that. I remember that. And I thought, how could they even get this made? Like who would...
So what's the tone of this?
It starts out as a pretty crazy, surreal, strange comedy. And there's a lot of really funny stuff in that first 20, 25 minutes as Hitler first interacts with, I think it's like 3 or 4 boys playing soccer are the first kids he encounters. And he just assumes they're Hitler Youth, of course. I'll expound on the premise a little bit. Hitler has no idea what's happened to him. He has no idea that he's in 2014. And everyone in modern Germany, they just assume he's some sort of actor or comedian. So they don't know he's the real Hitler. He doesn't know he's not in 1944 World War II Germany anymore. So that's the launching point for a lot of the humor. I mean, he gets maced, he gets in all kinds of situations.
But obviously he knows he's not in the same time period, right?
He's not sure what's going on. Like
because you would think it would be pretty easy for him to tell. It's like...
They don't let that run for too long before he gets to a newspaper stand and sees the date on a newspaper. But for that first 20 minutes or so, there's some primo material as he's trying to figure out. Yeah, I mean, he's walking through the Brandenburg Gate, and people just assume he's like, the guys dressed as Spider-Man in Times Square. They're trying to get their picture taken with him, and he assumes they want to get their picture taken with him because he is the Fuhrer, and obviously the people of Germany love the Fuhrer. You can't maintain that tone for too long in this movie.
No,
it
sounds like Encino Man.
No, it starts to get very political and very social, and it's for a movie written and shot before Trump made his presidential run. Man, is it prescient about what went on in the United States. This movie does something very clever. There's that half of the movie, which is involving, the fictional story of Hitler in modern times. But then they actually take that actor as Hitler and he interacts documentary style with real non-actors in modern day Germany. And you get their real reactions to him. And it's really scary. I mean, they're told look at this guy as Hitler and listen to the things he says. And he's not talking about Jews or gypsies or homosexuals. It's changed to a modern sensibility. So he's talking about immigrants and that sort of thing. But the number of, and I mean, the editors can pick and choose what they want to put in the movie too, based on who they spoke to. But the number of people who really latch on to what he's saying and saying, yeah, he's really saying some things I can agree with. I can really get behind this guy. And it was only 70 years ago. Do you people not forget? He's Hitler. I mean, look at him. He is Hitler.
But they're all agreeing with him.
Yeah, there's a montage towards the end of the film where they just have him driving through the streets of, I assume it's Berlin, in an open-top convertible, and he's just waving to the people as he drives along the streets. And there's some people who are shaking their heads, some people give him the finger, and some people laugh and give him the Nazi salute. And that level of complacency in modern-day Germany, of all places, is a little frightening. Wow. As far as the plot of the movie goes, I mean, of course, the TV station doesn't take long before they find this guy and want to put him on air. And of course, the ratings go through the roof. And the rival of the TV station who feels like this should be his job that this woman was given. And so I want to sabotage her. What can I do to sabotage her? And, she's putting Hitler on the air. Obviously, that should be the way to do it. And he tries to, but the higher-ups, the executives at the studio don't want to fight these strong ratings. What eventually does in his tenure at the studio is not the things he's saying and the things he's doing, but footage emerges of him shooting a puppy. And so when people see it, he shot a puppy, that's the thing that makes them angry about this Hitler character. There's a couple of things in here that are a little, clichéville for modern comedies. And there's a scene where someone's talking about their boss, and of course the boss sneaks up behind him, and he's behind me, isn't he? And he's hearing everything I'm saying. But aside from that, it's a pretty clever original movie. There's some really funny stuff in it. There's some great social commentary in it, some scary interactions, as I've alluded to, with modern day real Germans. It's a highly original film, and it's one that people are going to get a lot of enjoyment out of if they don't mind a subtitled German film.
Sounds very interesting. Where did you come across this film?
It's streaming on Netflix right now. It is on Netflix. Yeah, I saw the trailer. I can't remember remember what brought me to the trailer. It might have been Chris found the trailer online and we watched it and at work, and it was pretty funny.
I think there's a Hitler TV show in there as well.
On Netflix?
Yeah. Something. I forget exactly what it is.
I hope it's consciously irreverent to what it's doing as this movie is.
Yeah.
But did you know the BBC tried to do a show in the early 70s called Heil Hitler, I'm Home?
Yeah.
I've seen some of the pilot on
Honeymooners
YouTube.
type TV sitcom. It's
amazing.
deplorable. Yeah.
It's amazing.
So, yes, it's a very delicate line to walk.
It's a fine line to walk. It's done well in this movie. The comedy doesn't get offensive. It walks the line, but it doesn't get offensive. And then you can see the ultimate reason why they made this movie when you see all the modern political commentary that it has.
And the actor who plays Hitler, he does a good job.
He does a good job. And of course, there's the inevitable reference to Downfall.
Was there with Bruno?
Yeah. And I think at one point in the movie, they say, when Hitler gets the job at the TV station, he says, I think it's one of the characters says, "Oh, he's playing himself. No, we should have got Bruno Ganz to play him." But there's another good, obvious reference to Downfall, but it was inevitable and well done. And the political message in this movie clearly shows that, and some of the footage in the movie, that we've easily forgotten the past and how easy it is to forget, sadly.
Very true.
Especially in this day and age.
Yeah. Okay, so that's Look Who's Back.
Look Who's Back.
And the Star Trek
50th Anniversary Rarities Collection from La La Land Records.
Okay. Ivan, what do you got today?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. The first one is a documentary called Be Here Now. This is a story about Andy Whitfield, and for those of you guys that don't know, he is an actor. He played Spartacus, season 1, and he got diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and passed away. So it was an interesting documentary. I think only people that were fans of the show and that know who he is kind of be more interested. For a documentary, it kind of follows him around. You get to know his family, but he doesn't really get too much into depth about him. Like, he shows some things from his past. Doesn't really show anything about his current. Like Jay Courtney, who played Captain Boomerang, he appears in the scene. That's just because they were both, his cancer was in remission, so they both went to audition for a movie. Like, it was the same movie, just different characters. And you see the guy there for like 2 seconds, but they don't really interview him or anything, which I thought was weird. They didn't really spend any time talking to anybody that he worked with, anybody from Spartacus. They showed a couple of behind the scenes stuff from Spartacus. But yeah, mainly kind of dealt with him and his family, kind of showing him going through treatment, which was interesting, but it'd be kind of nice to kind of get the whole picture, right? Instead of just that one thing. And then I kind of felt like the ending was pretty rushed. It was kind of like, okay, he went on this place to see a specialist. He wasn't feeling well. He got on a plane back home, and then you never see him again. It's like he went to the hospital. Now he's in hospice, and they're like, he passed away. And that was like over a span of a week, and they don't show anything about him. They just kind of like voiceovers, which I was kind of, I guess, you don't want to show him in that, film him while he's in there, but.
Or the family may not have wanted anybody in there too.
But it would just kind of be interesting, show something, right? Instead of.
Does the documentary feel like it was shot concurrent with his life at the time, or was it kind of put together after the fact? It was, okay.
Yeah, it was kind of being shot around the same time because he died during filming, right? But yeah, I just thought it was an okay documentary. I would definitely only recommend it for people that like the show and that were fans. I don't think that there was enough really subject matter there to really kind of interest you, because
would have been nicer to get more of a sense of the person rather than just focusing.
It did show some of his past, how he grew up, but it just seemed like he was just very fast. It would have been kind of nice if they showed, instead of, him kind of trying to do other things. Okay, when they showed that one part when he goes on that one audition at one point where it's like, I'm feeling better, time to get back to work. It's like, that was it. Like, in that entire time, he only did this one thing that was aside from the cancer. They just kind of should have showed, it's like, okay, he's dealing with cancer, trying to get better, but then show, the other things that he's doing, right? Like when he's traveling, doing all these other things. Show more of that. Kind of show him also trying to live his life as much as possible before he passed away and spend time with his family, or going for auditions when he was feeling better. Show more of Spartacus. Interviews with people. But for what it was kind of nice and touching, little tribute. But unless you really know who he was and you were a fan, you're really not going to be all that invested in it.
Did the show continue continue after his death?
It did. So the first season, he got the cancer, did a treatment, and then he started going into remission. So what they did a prequel series. So they went like one season before Spartacus showed up. And then unfortunately his cancer came back. So then they replaced him to kind of continue on the story of Spartacus. And then he passed away.
Very sad.
And the show was all right for what it was. It was kind of over the top, kind of action, almost like violence. And it was kind of like from Sin City.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch the show, but anytime I saw footage of it, it looked very Sin City or even 300-esque to me.
300 is what it reminded me of.
Yeah, but it was an enjoyable show. Yeah. I mean, I watched the whole thing. Me and you used to watch it. We got quite a bit into it right before.
I saw the first 2 seasons. I enjoyed it. I'd say, yeah, if you want more action and style over top of any kind of substance, definitely.
And there was still storylines, and the acting was good in it. You know, Lucy Lawless was in it. I forget what the other guy's name was, the British guy.
He was in The Mummy. He was the younger...
The brother of Rachel White.
Yeah, he was in For Weddings and a Funeral, too.
Right. Yeah.
We all know who he is, but we don't know.
Yeah. We don't know his name.
A familiar face.
And then that's Manu Bennett was also in it. And yeah, it was an interesting show. It was a fun watch. And there were like 10 episode seasons or 13, so it was easy to get through. Anyways, in my second rave was I got to watch Hell in High Water.
Caught up with that one. Yep.
Yeah. I really liked it. Ben Foster, Chris Pine, and Jeff Bridges. And stories about 2 brothers just robbing banks because they're trying to save their family's land. And Jeff Bridges is a cop. That's kind of like his last case. And he's trying to stop them. And it was just a really good movie. Really well acted movie. Just great. Everybody was amazing in it.
I think I'm the last one to see it.
Yeah, we will be.
Because
we've all talked about it at one point or another now, and you're the last one.
It's a movie that I heard about a while ago, and then it showed up on Netflix.
It's on Netflix now,
I turned it on right away. As soon as I saw that it was on there, I immediately watched it.
It has, I think, possibly the best waitress in the history of cinema.
Oh, Kathy Mixon?
No, the old waitress. Well, I don't know how you could forget. To me, it's such a remarkable scene when she's just being so rude is not the word, but very forthcoming in her convictions today. I thought she was fantastic.
But no, I really enjoyed the movie.
Yeah, it's a good movie. The performances are phenomenal.
Yeah. And it's a, straightforward storyline, what it is, but just so well done.
I kind of, from a heist movie, I wanted a little bit more originality, but it came to a nice conclusion the way.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing it again in a few months, maybe with less expectation than I had the first time, and maybe I'll warm up to it a little.
It's another one, like a bit like Get Out, where the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes for this Hell in High Water are in like the 98% range, which is to me more than it deserves, but it's a strong film.
Yeah, it's definitely a movie that I would watch again easily.
For sure.
It's really well done.
So that was Hell or High Water, and the documentary is called
Be Here Now.
Be Here Now. Excellent. Paul, would you like to go?
Sure, I can go. I also have a few things to talk about. First thing is actually a documentary I watched last night. Ron Howard's documentary installment on the Beatles. I haven't seen a lot of them. I know.
The title being?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the title is Beatles 8 Days a Week. So I love the Beatles. I haven't seen a ton of their documentaries. So this delves into probably a lot of familiar territory for people who have watched everything and devoured everything that they can. It's a really good retrospective on just their touring days. And I thought it captured the mood of the band, has some very candid interviews with not only the band, but some of the people that helped them on tour through the days. A couple cameo interviews with Sigourney Weaver and Whoopi Goldberg, kind of talking about their influences on them.
Their influences on the Beatles? Okay, the Beatles.
Sorry.
Or vice versa. Right.
Well, they were young girls, so they probably influenced the Beatles a little bit.
I don't remember that one ditty. Oh, Whoopi.
Love me do.
All right, just making clear.
That's a strange pair to be interviewing in a Beatles documentary.
I thought it was interesting, and they actually show
is there footage of them as Beatles groupies?
There's actually video footage of Sigourney Weaver at a Beatles concert.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Whoopi Goldberg just talks about her experience of seeing them at Shea Stadium and how it was a defining moment root for her, which seems kind of funny, but
Everybody's a Beatles.
Yeah, who
well,
would be?
fair enough. But I just thought it was a really interesting documentary that delved into why they stopped touring, and it shows some footage of their final performance, which of course was on the rooftop of their recording studio, and it made me want to watch more for sure. And I thought it was really well done. And like I said, maybe there's a lot of footage in here that anybody who's eaten up and devoured as much Beatles stuff as they could, maybe there's not a lot of new material in here. But as a Beatles fan, it was fun to watch it and kind of tap your toe as they're playing songs. And there's a lot of live performances. And it's just nice to hear Paul McCartney talk about the bond that he had with John Lennon growing up. And also the fact that when they got Ringo Starr on drums, that's when they knew that they actually had something. And now they're on the fast track to success. But they also talk about how they kept waiting for the bubble to burst and how they kind of figured that they'd be like any other rock and roll band at the time, where you'd have your moment in the sun and then just kind of fade away.
They got very artistic before the bubble burst, and that continued their reign, I guess.
Yeah.
When did they stop touring? I didn't realize they didn't tour throughout their time together.
Sergeant Pepper's
66.
Yeah.
It was August of 66.
So good 3 or 4 years. And
Yeah, it was
no
Candlestick
touring.
Park in San Francisco.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
their last official stop of the tour.
Yeah. So they kind of got bored with kind of the direction things were going. They kind of got tired of all the hysteria, and
That was the big thing.
yeah,
They couldn't even hear themselves play on stage because of the screaming. As soon as they hit the stage, it would be a wall of noise until they walked off. And they're just like,
unfortunate.
no one's even listening to us.
and that's exactly what they say. I think it was Paul McCartney said, like, it wasn't even about the music at that point. Like, it was just a circus. They were there for the event. They weren't there for us.
Yeah.
So they grew very tired of it and decided that their next album they would just make for the sake of making art with music.
So when their music started getting really good is when people couldn't hear them live anymore.
Because they made it so that it would be almost impossible for them to perform those records live.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize that they had stopped touring that early into their recording career either. I knew that album, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, was quote unquote unperformable live, but I just assumed that they kind of picked up touring after that. So yeah, it was a good education for me on a band that I thought I knew more about than I obviously did. A really interesting retrospect. I really enjoyed it, and I thoroughly recommend it for anybody that wants to go down memory lane and check out old Beatles stuff.
Ron Howard directed this?
Ron Howard directed it. It came out last year.
I recommend it too. I think it's pretty great.
And I will say Paul McCartney's still amazing live.
I'm sure he is. I have
is.
yet to see him, unfortunately.
I've seen him twice, and he's in his 70s, and he just keeps going. And it shows with him how much he's enjoying it, even after doing it for 50 years.
To
Still
have that
the
passion.
greatest singer-songwriter in modern history.
Well, and actually that's one thing that they touch on in the documentary too, is they talk about how George Harrison became the songwriter that he would become, and how earlier on he wouldn't really contribute much, but much more towards the later
Not that he wasn't trying.
Right, but he even talks about that.
It's very hard to get your material into a band with John and Paul putting out their stuff.
And they're talking about writing these songs that are legendary songs, and they say, yeah, well, we kind of wrote that in 20 minutes. We just kind of went, John was playing this, so I came in and I played this, and, we kind of had it down in 20 minutes. And,
as far as George Harrison goes, if you want a nice a companion piece, Martin Scorsese did a great documentary on George Harrison a few years ago.
I will have to borrow that from you, assuming you own it.
I do.
I will say that this documentary had such an impact on me that it made me want to watch more Beatles, to the point where there was a box set of the CDs sold a couple of years ago, and in that came a DVD that has mini retrospectives on each album, and they spend anywhere from 3 to 8 minutes on each and every album, kind of the recording and everything. And I just put that in for the hour just to continue the trip down memory lane. So definitely well worth checking out for sure. And my second, that's obviously a rave. So my second rave, something a little different than that. I don't know if you guys have seen Werner Herzog's Lessons of Darkness from 1992. It's a documentary, largely instrumental, not a lot of voiceover except for him kind of weighing in every now and again. But it deals with the oil fields in Kuwait after the Gulf War.
Gulf War, yeah.
Yeah. So
that's when the Iraqis were fleeing the American troops and lighting their wells on fire, right?
Burning their way out of the
right.
Yeah.
So not a lot to delve into it because obviously it's more of a documentary about what was going on here. But I mean, obviously there's no plot or anything, but just haunting and visually stunning, and the music that they use, it also contributes to the feeling of haunting and just
and Herzog's voice.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, it's great. And I don't think I've ever seen a movie of his before, so this has honestly made me want to check out more. I'm not
documentary or any film.
I don't know that I've seen any of his.
You've seen him in Jack Reacher.
Oh, as an actor. I mean, he's talking about
I've never seen
an actor.
Yeah, so I'm not as well versed in the classic films as
you've
as
probably seen Grizzly Man.
But I don't think so.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I just watched 2 of his films within the last couple of weeks. Lo and Behold, a very recent one about the internet, and then Echoes from a Somber Empire about Bukasa, who declared himself emperor of the Central African Republic or whatever it was called. But anyways, I don't mean to.
No,
I digress. There's a lot of great Herzog to discover out there.
It's a name that has always carried a lot of weight as far as anybody that I've ever heard talk about him as a director has had nothing but glowing things to say. So I saw this. It's on Netflix, and I thought, and it's fairly short, like it's under an hour. It might be.
Oh, that is short for.
Yeah, I think it was under an hour.
That was was that originally on IMAX screens? Do you remember? Just given the length, it sounds like the old IMAX documentaries used to be around 45, 50 minutes.
That would make sense because I checked it out on a lunch hour, and so anyways, just the weight of his name and the respect that a lot of other people that I know and trust their opinions hold him in high regard. I thought I should check it out, and it's definitely left a curiosity for me to check out more of his stuff and check this out for sure. There's a fun fact about it where he uses a quote at the end of the movie, and it's credited to unknown, but it's actually a quote he made up for the end of the movie.
It's very Herzog.
So, but yeah, definitely worth checking out if you want something of that nature. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. I'm interested.
Herzog's brilliant. I recommend practically everything he's ever done. Can't think of a bad movie I've
not seen a bad Herzog film. I've only seen maybe 3 of his fictional films, maybe
is that right?
6 or 7 documentaries, but I've enjoyed everything. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I should just start listing all my favorite Herzog.
We're going to be here for a while.
One, Fitzcarraldo.
Fitzcarraldo's
that'll be coming up in our Best of the 80s show, but that movie is unbelievable. Wow. Okay. I'll go since I'm last. I'll start off with a big rave. It's a movie. It's currently streaming on Netflix. It's called Train to Busan.
I've heard so many good things about this.
This is a new Korean movie directed by Sang Ho Yoon. It stars Yoon Gon and Soon En Kim. I worked hard on that. Basically, the plot, a father and daughter try to survive as a zombie outbreak occurs on a passenger train from Seoul to Busan. This movie literally moves like a train. It's just nonstop. Darren, last week you were talking about, your aversion to vampire and zombie movies, and I feel the same. I am not. The zombie trope is pretty tired for me. But I also love to see a foreign director take an American genre that they can be a little stale and put his own fresh take on it and pump some adrenaline into it, and that's exactly what's happened here. Korea is not known for making zombie movies. This guy might be making the first zombie movies ever. His previous film before this was an animated film called Seoul Station, which is kind of a prequel to this. I'm dying to see it now after watching this. Yeah, I just think as zombie movies go, it's right up there as one of my favorites of all time. It's fantastic. It has a great look to it. It has a nice, basically, it's about a kind of distant father and his daughter, and he's kind of a workaholic dad. It begins with him buying his daughter the same birthday present that he just bought for her a few months ago. So that's the kind of dad he is. So this train to Busan to go see her mother is kind of an apology for him. And it's something that he wants to do for his daughter to be nice. And during this train ride, all hell breaks loose. Are you guys fans of zombie movies?
There's been a lot of good ones for sure over the years. And,
far and few between.
A fresh take on it is something I am interested in watching.
Yeah, Zack Snyder kind of re-energized the zombie movement, I thought, with Dawn of the Dead. Yeah. And it has elements of that. These are fast-moving zombies for one thing.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like that film. It also has shades of World War Z, with hordes of zombie, that kind of, but this movie looks a lot, even the CG looks better than that movie, I think.
You just complimented Zack Snyder.
Hey, Watchmen is one of my all-time favorite comic book movies.
Me too.
Yeah, we could
Sorry.
Zack Snyder's the whole topic.
We
onto
digress.
Itself. But it's it's a zombie movie, so there's not a lot of plot. All I can just say is plug it in and go. This movie is so much fun. I wasn't sure if I was going to see a movie more intense than Green Room last year, but this one is really running.
Green Room's pretty
a nice run
relentless.
for its money. Yeah, this is the type of movie I was watching at home and I need to stand up a few times when I was watching it. It was just that intense. There's a scene with the luggage rack that is particularly effective. Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything because that's one of the great things with the zombie movie is just seeing how it goes. But has a great supporting cast. There's this guy named Dong Seok Ma. He's fantastic. He's he's kind of the opposite of the lead character. He's like a good man and good father in every way, and becomes the protector of this guy's daughter for a bit in the movie. He's really good supporting role. Also, there's somewhat of a nice undertone of political message, and I don't know if you know what's going on in South Korea right now. They just impeached their president. There's a little bit of distrust with government right now.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of plays effectively into the film. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this movie. Just check it out. If you're a fan of the burgeoning Korean cinema, and if you're not, get on it, because Korea is making some of the most exciting movies.
I like Korean train movies. I'll say that much. Snowpiercer is fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Agreed.
Absolutely. That's
amazing movie.
Yeah, directors like Chan Woon Park, Bong Joon-ho, Ji Woon Kim. They've all directed movies like Old Boy, Mother, I Saw the Devil, The Man from Nowhere, The Wailing, The Handmaiden. These are all great films just in the last few years. I can't think of another country that's rocking it like Korea is right now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, just check it out. It's if you have Netflix, it's a must.
Yeah, definitely on my list.
I'm always up for a good zombie flick.
Yeah,
A good zombie flick.
This is one of the best I've ever seen. And normally I would never recommend a zombie movie. Trust me. This is first class. Okay. My next rave is a new HBO show. We're 6 episodes in. It's called Big Little Lies. You guys heard about this?
For the title.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
It tells the tale of 3 mothers of first graders whose lives unravel to the point of murder. It stars Shailene Woodley, Nicole Kidman, Reese Witherspoon, and Laura Dern. They all play the mothers in the show, and they all live in the community of Monterey. There is a crime that's been committed in the series. They're very vague about it. There's a lot of witness testimony going on. You know those movies where it's someone in a dark room and they're interviewing people.
Yeah.
So we're learning a little bit about this crime that maybe has occurred, and we're not quite sure even who the victim is and who the perpetrator is. And it gives us snippets of that as the show goes along. It's really one of the least interesting aspects of the show. And in the pilot, they kind of set that up as where it's going. But we're 6 episodes in, and I don't know anything more about this crime than I did at the beginning.
Is that a good thing?
The rest of the show is so damn good. It's okay. All 3 actresses are great in it. I'm not usually a big fan of Reese Witherspoon, but in the right role, she can be great. And this is written completely for her.
Yeah, she's been fantastic in a lot of roles.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of her. She's definitely has some stinkers in her
But you
career,
definitely know that type of role that she
definitely
can
does
nail.
more of the romantic comedy type stuff. And
Yeah, I'm usually of lesser interest, but then there's things like Pleasantville where she's brilliant and fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Election. I like
Election.
Oh, yeah, she's great in that, too. She was also really good in Inherent Vice last year, and she's fantastic in her movie debut, The Man in the Moon, directed by Robert Mulligan. If you haven't seen that, it's one of the better coming-of-age films of all time. Do you know Shailene Woodley?
Yeah, she was almost Mary Jane before they cut her out from that last movie.
Right. She's kind of almost the semi-lead of the show. She's new in town, and the show begins with an altercation that's happened between her son and Laura Dern's daughter, and a case of bullying that maybe happened or didn't happen. The boy, who completely comes off as innocent in it, says he did nothing, but the little girl keeps showing up with bruises and things like that, so we're not quite sure what's going on with that. And then there's Nicole Kidman and her husband, who's played by Alexander Skarsgård. And they have a very abusive, violent relationship. And then there's Reese Witherspoon. She's cheating on her husband, played by Adam Scott, who's really good in the show too. Yeah, there's a lot of cheating, a lot of lying, hence the title, going on in this show. It might seem melodramatic, kind of soap opera-ish, but trust me, it's not. The writing is way too smart. I'm not quite sure what this show was really about, besides affluent white people's problems, except for it's just very entertaining. It's created by David E. Kelly, Remember that name?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from LA Law and Boston Legal and The Practice. And he's
And
kind of
Wonder
been
Woman.
that movie. So I'm sure that's not what he wants to be known for. But I don't know if you guys were fans of his shows before. I wasn't really. It's his stuff always seemed kind of generic material, but this stuff is really a step above the things that he's done before. It's very adult. It's very smart. It's well written. It's well acted. It's just one of the great dramas out there right now. There's not a lot of shows that just are about normal people and their normal lives, if you want to call some of these people normal. But I recommend it. The finale is on next week. It's only 7 episodes per season, so it's not a big time commitment. But if you have HBO, I definitely recommend checking it out. It's Kelly's favorite show on TV right now, for sure. Yeah. So it's, you know, like I said, with the cast and everything, it may be more female-oriented, but don't let that scare you away, guys. It's a very good show. Give it a shot.
Sounds good.
Okay, that's it for me. 2 raves. Okay, so we'll wrap it up for this week. Join us next week as we discuss the Marvel Netflix shows and Iron Fist. Until then, you can subscribe to us on iTunes and YouTube, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and please feel free to leave us a comment on our webpage at whyweseemoviespodcast@libsyn.com. Take care, and thanks for listening. Ciao.
So long.
Later.
Run, run, rabbit, run, run, run. Don't give the farmer his fun. He'll get by without his rabbit pie. So run, rabbit, run, rabbit.